of reform, and not in just one part of the UK, but in multiple places in the UK, all over the UK. Reform is going up in the polls. I mean, it's absolutely staggering how fast and how quickly they're rising just now. In a recent poll, I covered it in a wee short, in a recent poll, that I think the Conservatives were on 29%, the Labour Party were on 27%, and Reform was on 21%, I think, or something like that. But it's all changed, and now Reform is sitting in second place and allegedly winning in Wales. It looks like Reform might get 2 seats from Glasgow, and that's a city that voted yes. It looks like in Scotland, Reform could get between 10 and 15 seats if people vote for them on the second vote, on the list seat. They could get 15 seats. They could be the largest party in Wales. There is potentially up to 100 seats that is winnable. They are going to decimate both the Labour Party and the Conservative Party. In the recent poll, there was a poll there that they were on 23%. The Conservative Party were on 23%. The Reform was on 22%, and Labour was on 21%, or something along those lines. It was absolutely unbelievable. So that means they're in second place within the margin of error, where they could actually go into first place above the Conservative Party. If in May's local elections in England, that they will actually see whether or not Reform becomes the largest party in the councils. If they do that, and it'll depend on just now in May how quickly they can get a branch structure in every constituency or every council area, and then be able to get enough people to stand for them to actually get as many seats as they can in the May election. Also, Suella Braverman's husband has now joined Reform. I think that Suella Braverman will join Reform before May, and that will be the ideal springboard into the May election. She'll probably join a month before, which will give them the perfect opportunity and the perfect springboard into the May elections. And that will be another MP for them. I think she'll probably retain her seat once they jump ship. People are complaining that the Reform might just end up as Tory light, and all the Tories will just be in Reform. So it won't have actually changed its ethos. Whereas Generic, who was always seen as the Christian Democrat, globalist, TRG, wet centrist, was told, and then he started postulating as an actual Conservative, that he was actually told just to join the Liberals, because that's what they do. They just gaslight. Oh, we're going to do something about immigration. Oh, we'll stop the boats. Oh, but while at the same time giving asylum seekers hotel rooms and food rent that's costing the taxpayer billions of pounds, but still freezing our elderly who served in the Second World War and got us to where we are, and allowing them to starve and die on the streets, while at the same time adversely affecting farmers and the inheritance that they can give to pass on the farms and food security in the UK. Which is exactly what the communists did in Russia, what the communists did in Ethiopia, what the communists did in Germany before the war. You probably didn't know the predominantly Jewish communists did this, and they starved the German people, predating World War II. And this was Hitler was in a Jewish communist Bavarian Socialist Workers' Party who were in connection with the USSR. So he was in that as one of their sort of Gestapo-esque for the communists, and people don't realise that. So really the communists, the Islamists and the National Socialists, who are all anti-Semitic, don't forget, although Marx was Jewish, he wrote the Jewish Question, and Hitler wrote the Final Solution. And obviously the Jews have been persecuted for centuries just now. So, and obviously Keir Starmer, being potentially homosexual and raising these children Jewish, might have a problem considering that Muslims here in the UK are all voting for them. And now we've got Islamists who are now voting for other Islamists that are now Islamofascism is now in this parliament, and nobody cares, nobody's saying anything about it. Who are trying to bring in blasphemy laws to prevent anybody criticising a religion that has sex slaves and has sex and wants to have sex with children. It's a paedophilic religion. And wants to murder anybody that's not in their cult. I mean, really, you couldn't write it, but these people have not been called out that are in here, while Hamza Yusuf goes and gallivants Qatar and not representing his constituents in Pollock. Oh, come on. So, the Reform are rising. Reform now might be in second place. They might be Kemi Badenoch, although as I said in my one of my last reports, is the best of the bad bunch, but I would think that Kemi, who's meant to be right wing, don't forget they keep saying, oh, the right wing, because they know that they can cover their WEF actual underlying political currents with they say, no, the right wing, they're going to do something about immigration, and they gaslight the public and never do anything about immigration. It's just a continual gaslighting, whether it's the Labour Party or the Conservatives, that they're actually going to do something. And yeah, they don't do anything. So it's just a gaslighting by the globalists in here, whether it's both the Labour Party in Wales and the Plaid Cymru are just wokey wefters. Same with the SNP. The SNP and Labour in Scotland, just wokey wefters. Same with Sinn Féin, wokey wefters, neo-communist, postmodernist Marxists who are just wokey wefters. Wokey gimps, globalist Islamo-Marxist parties, all of them. They're just all gimps. So it's just absolutely incredible. But now we see the rise of Nigel Farage. That conference in Perth with Reform looked very buoyant. It looked like there was a lot of enthusiasm in Scotland, and that is probably reflected in the number of points in the Reform are getting to increase their standing in Scotland. 10 to 15 seats, depending on if the Scottish populace or voting populace put their vote in the regional list. They might get 16, 15 MSPs, and they're still going up. We've still got about 16 months to go up. And depending on how quickly the Reform can get a branch structure and how quickly they can actually start to develop a proper manifesto for Scotland, it's not good enough just relying on the British agenda, what's happening down here from Reform. They have to come up with proper policy that's going to progressively help Scotland and Wales and attack the wokey wefters on their policy. And I've already said this, they need policy groups who are going to come up with a political manifesto that's going to appeal to the Scottish populace. At that point, you might actually get an increase to 20%. But there's Anas Sarwar's going down in the polls. Anas is getting obliterated. He's gone down. He did well at the election. I told you not to vote for Labour. Nobody listened to me. I was politically correct as usual. And Labour, 5 months in, 3 million people petition to actually get rid of Labour. It's potentially going to have to get debated in the House. And we all know that Keir Starmer's absolutely shocking, taking bribes from Lord Ali. Labour are collapsing the polls. The SNP are going to win by proxy, although I was looking at the figures for the number of seats that they're going to get in the Parliament, and the SNP are still going to hold the majority of seats, along with potentially the Greens over the Unionists. So the Loon Balls and the Green Party might have a hold sway, although I think that what the Reform should do is do a confidence vote, not a union saying, all right, we'll vote in everything on your manifesto. It should be a supplying and confidence vote on policy by policy, rather than just say, right, we'll go in government with Labour. Labour are shit. Labour are shit in Scotland, they're shit down here. And to actually prop up any Labour Party or any of the wokey wefter parties is just going against what Reform should be standing for, and they should be standing against the wokey wefter agenda, not actually helping them, unless it was policies that was agreed on and it would benefit Scotland. I'm not sure how good. I think in a Westminster point of view, Scots should vote for Reform. I'm not sure just now how good they're going to be at for a Scottish point of view, but we'll just wait and see. There might be other options that are going to be available. So, yeah, I mean, incredible how quickly the rise is. I thought it was to happen the last election. I was slightly premature in my predictions, but I knew that this was kind of going to happen, and I think we're going to see a massive shock, depending on if Reform can get 1,000, 2,000 people to actually stand at local elections. They need to even put paper candidates in to make sure that people have got a choice. They've been winning councillors. They won councillors in Kent. People in Scotland, the Tories in Scotland or independents in Scotland, have moved over to Reform. They're getting councillors left, right and centre. Even just now, some of them are still not able to field it because I don't think they've got the infrastructure there at a local level, and that's what they really need to do. They need to develop the infrastructure, get a branch structure in each council constituency, and start to get the names who are going to go forward at a local level. And that's what's going to have to happen. So, yeah, I mean, incredible, absolutely incredible. They've gone to this stage, second potentially in the polls, winning in Wales, got up to 15 seats, might take out the full of the Green Party, so there'll be no Greens. How great would that be? No loon balls from the Greens. And that's what the Reform, the actual breath of political fresh air that Reform might bring in Scotland to the wokey wefters. It could totally change Scottish politics. Obviously, it depends between now and 2026, 16 months, how quickly that can actually change, and how quickly Reform can get their ground game together, target the seats. They now know, I think even more so than when UKIP was forming, they now know where their support is, where the turquoise is going to be, and they have a ground game in these constituencies to maximise the amount of returns they're going to get from the councillors, especially in increasingly turquoise areas. And that is where they, by fielding at the national level, getting all of their MPs to stand in each constituency, they were able to then evaluate where the actual support was in each constituency, and then it gets breaking down into each council, each parliamentary constituency for in here. So they now need to make sure they've got a branch structure in each constituency, or each constituency for the MPs, and each council constituency collectively, and they need to make sure they've got the 1,000 people who are going to stand as councillors. You could get a lot of the MPs to stand as, or the MP candidates to stand as council candidates. and then we'll see. We'll see again. This is another litmus test for how many people are going to be voting for reform, and they've missed out some councils. They need to, at their central office, get the ground game to stand in each specific by-election. In particular, the by-elections, they need to get in every by-election so that they can find out and get the vote out. It's very, very important that they find out where the vote is and to get the vote out in each constituency, because it's going to increase once they find out. If they get a big swath of 1,200 or 1,300 councillors, however how many it is, that again is going to reinforce where the vote is within the UK as a whole, especially England as a whole, because it's obviously an English council elections. So they've already sort of got it. I don't think they were in every seat in the UK, but they certainly were in the majority, the vast majority, and they now know from the seats where the top 100 seats, target seats are, which is what the Liberals have done for years and still managed to retain seats in here from them being elected and being able to target the seats that they know that they're strong in. Well, now Reform know which seats they're strong in, which will be reflected in which council seats that they're able to stand for, and that will be reflected in how many they'll win again. Targeted resources, but I don't even think they have to target resources. I think they have to get as many candidates up to get the vote out, and they have to, between now and next year, make sure that they're fighting every council election, and that means they have to have an infrastructure at a local level, but they have to retain. So if they've got a local website, they have to retain it at central office, and don't let the chairman of the local website actually retain the domain. That's important, because Labour get screwed over allowing that to happen at a local level. But they need to start getting domains for each area, for each council area, for each how that's made up with actual constituencies for MPs, how it fits into the council areas as well. And they need to get a chairman and make sure that the chairman and the committee for each constituency at a council level gets the people at a by-election for the councillors to stand. Because they've missed a few, but they've been doing extremely well for the actual places that they have stood, which is, they've done very well on the back of that. So the rise of Reform, and we will see very soon if Reform actually get to a stage where they are going to get hundreds and hundreds of councillors back. We're going to get to a stage whether not by 2026 they're going to win the Welsh elections after the Wokie wefters in Plaid Cymru, the Greens, the Lib Lab Con Party get into third, fourth, fifth place, second, third, fourth, fifth place below Labour in Wales. Below Reform in Wales. The Labour Party are wanting to bring in anti-racist, which means a racist against the Indigenous Welsh, political policies at a Welsh level in Wales. I mean, you couldn't write the same with Sinn Féin in Ireland. They look like a bunch of gimps as well, globalist Islamo-Marxist party. Same with the so-called Scottish National Party in Scotland. They're all just gimp parties, Labour gimps. They're all just gimps. And yeah, so I mean, I think it's absolutely incredible, and how quickly this is a real revolution in the UK, and that Scotland, now that Reform could be winning seats in Glasgow, a place that had a significant yes population, political vote, and they're now potentially going to be I think they may be third in Scotland just now if people go out and vote for Reform, whether it be the first or second vote. I don't know if they'll get any constituencies from the first vote. the SNP look like they're going to do well in the first vote, but the SNP supporters don't seem to have got it through that if they vote SNP 1 and 2, they're only going to get another 2 MSPs from voting for constituency MPs and not in voting for SNP on the list. They would have been better voting for Alba or another like Scottish Libertarian Party, whatever it is. But on the second vote, if you were voting for a nationalist point of view, it's a wasted vote voting for the SNP on the regional list. They had 1 million votes and only 2 MPs. It's ridiculous. But I think if the Reform especially get their ground game together, get a proper manifesto for Scotland and Wales, and get good MSPs, good MPs standing for the Brexit Party. They were all solid, they were all very capable. And a shame that none of them got elected. There would have been a real revolution in politics. But again, I think I'm started things and people are taking them on, and it's getting bigger and bigger quickly. Not just in one area in the UK, all over the UK. There's even a Reform MP in Northern Ireland as well now. So Suella Braverman, I think, is going to leave next April next year, beginning of April, in time for the election, the local election, which is going to see Reform. Could they even get into first place in the local elections? Are they going to be able to get a constituency ground game or a council ground game? Are they going to be able to get the 1,000 councillors that are required to stand and get the 10 people who need to sign in time? I mean, that's a lot of planning in the next 4 months. If they get that fast and get it quickly, you won't know what's actually going to happen following on in 2026. My baby gorillas.